Today is the traditional commemoration of Saint Mary Salome, who stood at the foot of the cross of our blessed Lord on Calvary. The modern feast of Saint John of Capistrano, who is a Franciscan priest, is on October 23rd. His entry in the martyrology reads, near Villach in Hungary, Saint John of Capistrano, confessor of the Order of Friars Minor, that is the Franciscans, illustrious by the sanctity of his life and his zeal for the propagation of the Catholic faith. By his prayers and miracles, he routed a most powerful army of Turks and forced them to raise the siege of Belgrade. And his picture is the one that's there on the bulletin. October 24th is the modern feast of St. Anthony Mary Claret, a bishop, and the traditional feast of the Archangel St. Raphael is on the 24th. In the modern calendar, they're all bunched together, but in the traditional calendar, each of the archangels has their own feast day. The feast of the Holy Apostles St. Simon and Jude is celebrated on the 28th, and because it's our patronal feast day, that makes it a first-class solemnity. The 28th is also the Nativity of Trinita Tuso. Now, in honor of St. John of Capistrano, and in response to the ongoing violence in the Holy Land, not to mention the approach to the United States military action for decades, I want to speak today particularly about the Christian approach to war. Now, I need to make a caveat here, especially in light of our attitude towards veterans in society in general and in this parish in particular, apparently. And I know that the experience of many has not always been the best, even upon their homecoming. So without going into any more detail than that, what I want to say is, for those who need to speak to me because anything that I'm saying is triggering or if it's misunderstood, etc., you are welcome and encouraged to do so. I don't claim to be the best communicator. I don't necessarily have the best sound system. And it's possible to not understand clearly what I'm saying. So with that caveat, I'll be glad to speak to anyone who may not understand the points I'm trying to make very well. From the Catholic Encyclopedia. In conclusion, a war to be just must be waged by a sovereign power for the security of a perfect right of its own, or of another justly invoking its protection, against foreign violation in a case where there is no other means available to secure or repair the right, and must be conducted with a moderation which in the continuance and settlement of the struggle commits no act intrinsically immoral, nor exceeds in damage done or in payment and in penalty exacted the measure of necessity and of proportion to the value of the right involved, the cost of the war, and the guarantee of future security. Now let me share that with you in English. In order for a war to be legitimate, it must meet certain conditions. One, it must be waged by a sovereign state. To understand the Catholic principles that we're talking about here regarding war, it's fundamental to recognize that a sovereign state, what we normally call an independent country, acts as if it were one collective person. So the world just then is a community of these persons interacting. And so in order to think about the principles of war, it might be helpful to frame this in more of a sense of violence among individuals, self-defense among individuals, etc., to picture the principles better. There has to be a question of the rights of a state being violated, the rights of a state being violated, or the rights of another state asking for its help. There are no other options for a resolution. We may not commit intrinsically evil acts, and the actions of war must be proportionate regarding the damage done. So, in light of what I just said about individuals, again, imagine this more of a situation of individuals than countries, okay? So the first thing is, in order to enter into a war, some right of the person must be at stake. In other words, someone is threatening our health, safety, or well-being. Or we are responding to a grave injustice being perpetrated against another. And Americans need to seriously ask themselves how this country chooses which injustices it's going to respond to and what the real reason for doing so is. Physical violence must not be our first resort. We must try to prevent the injustice by other means first. And it's important that, again, we know the reasons why this is happening. We cannot do anything intrinsically evil in our own defense. And in this case, this means the direct killing of an innocent person. Obviously, when it comes to war, there are different factors, and then you get into wonderfully sticky questions like the use of the atomic bomb, etc. But the direct killing of the innocent person is the intrinsic evil here that we're speaking about principally. And finally, violence must be for the purpose of stopping the aggression. Think of it in terms of maybe a self-defense of an individual. In proportion to the aggression, we may not justify any violence merely because we have been attacked or are being threatened. The purpose of violence in war is not revenge, but to put an end to the damage being done. Since Cain murdered Abel, violence has been the near constant companion of fallen humanity. To pretend that if we merely pray for peace, all conflict will disappear is a fantasy. But neither should we glory in war and violence. Arthur Wellesley, the first Duke of Wellington, the one who finally defeated Napoleon Bonaparte, said that next to a battle lost, the greatest misery is a battle gained. Next to a battle lost, the greatest misery is a battle gained. War is not glorious. There are times when it is necessary. St. John of Capistrano, the Crusades, the Cristeros of Mexico, there are other examples, but war is not something to glory in. Almost 20 years ago, I was given the option to be released from my deployment to Afghanistan, but I went anyway. I've learned a lot since then. Americans, and those Mexicans with children who may be considering the armed services, need to rethink their approach to war. We need to ask the questions of Catholic just war theory. We need to question the motives that are given for supporting our warmongering, and we need to question where we are deployed around the world and whether we should be there. Our blessed Lord has said, "The one who has no sword must sell his cloak and buy one." But he also said, "Blessed are the peacemakers." He's not referring to the Colt pistol here. "For they will be called children of God."